Potential tropical cyclone in the Atlantic has still failed to get its name as it clears Florida. And now the latest around the wide world of tropics. Tropical Weather Bulletin for June the 5th. Right now we have potential tropical cyclone 1L, which is moving off the coast of Florida out into the western Atlantic. Elsewhere there are no areas of interest. There is actually one area of interest in the southern Indian Ocean right now, but no other tropical cyclones active at this moment. 27 storms have formed so far this year around the world. It's day 5 of Atlantic hurricane season, and there is potential tropical cyclone 1. National Hurricane Center still giving it 90%. We're currently going lower on T-coast at least with 70%, and the chances look like they might be starting to go down. In the Eastern Pacific, it's day 22 of hurricane season, and after the wrath of Agatha, it's very quiet with no areas of interest right now. But we've certainly had a bold start, but as of right now, nothing yet on the cards. In the Western Pacific, no areas of interest still, so it's a very dormant big basin here that we've got in front of us. Still some small indications that things might come out of the frontal system that persists through these months along the coast of China, but nothing concrete at this point. In the South Indian Ocean, we don't have the graphic for it, but this is the North Indian Ocean, nothing going on there. But south of the equator, there is an area of interest that we're now giving a 10% chance of forming as it heads towards sort of in the direction of Madagascar and then towards the Seychelles. Here is our floater for the day, showing us the progress of potential tropical cyclone 1. And whether it will get a name or not, or stay as a PTC, well, that is a very good question, one that probably can't be answered yet. You can see their convection blowing up and a string attached to its southern side there over Cuba, so very disorganized, and its circulation, if you can see it, is just off the coast of Florida, well to the west of that convection. Satellite imagery shows you why of that displacement is existing, and it's you can see a massive dry air plume coming in the center of the system right now. You can call it a storm because it has storm force winds, but it isn't a tropical storm yet. And you can see that massive amount of dry air moving in. Looking out west over the Pacific, extremely dry conditions over the main part of the Eastern Pacific Ocean, and only a little bit better conditions in the far eastern part of the basin, where we usually see the early activity. The Western Pacific, let's see how that's looking today. Very quiet, some might say too quiet. Little bits of thunderstorms blowing up in the tropical zones, but nothing of any great trouble for any of these areas. A few thunderstorms blowing up across the Philippines there over the last few frames, and generally a fairly settled picture. This is the Indian Ocean, and you'll see the South Indian, a little area there of disturbed weather, and that's what we're going to be monitoring over the next few days. It slowly drifts south and then southwest towards Madagascar, and then will curve back up towards the northwest eventually. And this is the Australian region down there, and the Western Pacific once again, and you can see here very little going on, but the big burst of convection over the eastern part of Indonesia. So there'll be a lot of drenching going on in that area right now, but nothing to do with any tropical cyclones. Sea surface temperatures still looking decent in the Eastern Pacific, but still you can see the product of upwelling from Agatha. Temperatures only just reaching 30 degrees, where previously it was quite comfortably so. The Atlantic, temperatures there dropping just a tad from that potential tropical cyclone, not very much at all. Loop current very visible, the Gulf Stream, and temperatures along the coast of Louisiana and Texas getting up there as well, pushing 28 degrees Celsius. So bubbling up and warming up in the Atlantic Ocean. The Indian Ocean, fairly warm here, and if you're looking towards the southwest Indian Ocean for that system, temperatures are still favourable there, around 28 degrees Celsius even, where that is right now. The Western Pacific, getting its act together too. 30 degrees, quite commonplace from the northern Philippines through to the northern Mariana Islands in the Philippine Sea. South China Sea also very warm, and much warmer now along the coast of southern China and Hong Kong, where previously temperatures weren't up to par, but seem to have caught up a little bit. How does that look for the anomalies? In fact, it's completely caught up over there in the South China Sea. It was way below average not long ago. Eastern Pacific, the La Nina pattern still very clear. Most of the main areas are below average. The Atlantic is near or well above average in some areas, especially where potential Tropical Cyclone One is heading right now. In the Western Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico, it's around average, and this is the oceanic heat content showing where the areas are. 1L doesn't have much to have in its favor there, and in the Eastern Pacific that's really dying off as well. There was a red zone there a few days back on my last bulletin, about a week ago now. In the Western Pacific, still very warm as is normal. So what do the computer models have in store? Well, first let's look at PTC 1L. GFS is really not keen anymore on it becoming a tropical cyclone. ECMWF is a little bit more favourable for it. National Hurricane Center, I must say, are probably being pretty bullish, keeping it at 90%, but I suppose at this point there's not much else you can do. But I really feel that the chances are starting to decrease for this cyclone. The next 24 hours will be very telling, and if it hasn't done it by then surely chances will have to reduce drastically. Precipitation amounts, and you can see a little slither there of orange in the initial part, showing that there's still quite a lot of moisture in this system. That line continues for a while, and then it sort of loses its way as it goes past Bermuda, where tropical storm watch is currently in effect. They'll probably issue a tropical storm warning there. They might get tropical storm force winds. Whether it's actually going to be a tropical cyclone or not is another question entirely, and it might just end up being a normal gale if such a thing were to exist. An interesting system certainly right now. Longer range, the Eastern Pacific threatens to wake up again, and the GFS had Agatha marked down early on. Well, it wants something else in the 5 to 10 day period, another hurricane for eastern Mexico. That would be very bad news for the region, but it's something that we can't rule out at this stage, especially early on in the season. That's the GFS pushing it out around day 7, day 8, and it really gets its act together on day 9 into day 10. That's all the important stuff right now. You can check out the Force 13 store, scan that code there, it will take you right to our store page. We're now offering animations as well as our merch for immediate order. And into the silly range in the Eastern Pacific, once again the GFS wants another system to form later on. It's not outlandish to call for something like this, but it is in the extreme long range, and it is calling for another hurricane to parallel the coast of Mexico and stay just offshore and then move out to sea. Apart from that though, the GFS at least forecasting that the entire tropics is going to be fairly quiet around the world over the next 2 to 3 weeks, which is interesting, with only 3 systems there on tap. On this day, it was June the 5th, 1997, when we had Tropical Storm Andres, which was moving in an interesting and erratic direction southeastwards, paralleling the coast of Guatemala, before moving eastwards and then turning north into El Salvador later on as a tropical storm. So certainly an interesting one. And this goes to show that things like Agatha, not too far out of the question, although of course it was much stronger. Certainly track-wise though, Andres is, I guess, a bit of an outlier. 7W was about to become Super Typhoon Nestor as well. Back to this year, we are still waiting for Alex. Is it going to be 1L or not? We'll wait and see. In the Eastern Pacific, the next name now is Blas. In the Central Pacific, we're still waiting for Hone. Oh dear. In the Western Pacific, the next name is still Chaba, and in the North Indian Ocean, we are waiting for Sitrang, and we might be there for quite a while now, as it appears that the early season in the Indian Ocean has been and gone. Looking towards the southern hemisphere, the next name in the Australian region is Darian, the southwest Indian Ocean let Lama, and in the South Pacific we're looking out for Harley. We'll have another tropical weather bulletin tomorrow night.